As we did last week, I'd like to start with the welcoming chant and feel free to join along. If you're in a place where you can sing out loud, you feel comfortable doing that, please feel free. Yeah, and if you're not comfortable singing out loud, you can sing it silently to yourself or just listen. And if you have a rattle, I like to use the rattle. I feel like it opens up the energy around the heart. It breaks up stagnant energy. And if you have a candle, light your candle. If you have some incense or smudge, feel free to do that now. TUKUY shunguan kuyani, 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 TUKUY shunguan kuyani. TUKUY shunguan kuyani, TUKUY shunguan kuyani. Welcoming you all with all my heart, welcoming in all of the elements that are always present. I came across a poem yesterday that I'd never read before. It's by Mary Oliver, and it just struck me as being so relevant to this journey that we're on together, and particularly some parts of it relating to the element of water, which is going to be our theme today. So I'd just like to read it. So it's from a long poem by Mary Oliver called Evidence. Where do I live? If I had no address, as many people do not, I could nevertheless say that I lived in the same town as the lilies of the field and the still waters. Spring, and all through the neighborhood now, there are strong men tending flowers. Beauty without purpose is beauty without virtue, but all beautiful things inherently have this function, to excite the viewers towards sublime thought. Glory to the world, that good teacher. Among the swans, there is none called the least or the greatest. I believe in kindness, also in mischief, also in singing, especially when singing is not necessarily prescribed. As for the body, it is solid and strong and curious and full of detail. It wants to polish itself. It wants to love another body. It is the only vessel in the world that can hold, in a mixture of power and sweetness, words, song, gesture, passion, ideas, ingenuity, devotion, merriment, vanity, and virtue. Keep some room in your heart for the unimaginable. Keep some room in your heart for the unimaginable. There are many ways to perish or to flourish. How old pain, for example, can stall us at the threshold of function. Still, friends, consider stone that is without the fret of gravity, and water that is without anxiety, and the pine trees that never forget their shape, their recipe for renewal, and the female wood duck who is looking this way and that way for her children, and the snapping turtle who is looking this way and that way also. This is the world. And consider always, every day, the determination of the grass to grow despite the unending obstacles. I ask you again, if you have not been enchanted by this adventure, your life, what would do it for you? And where are you with your ears bagged down as if with packets of sand? Listen, we all have much more listening to do. Tear the sand away and listen. The river is singing. For myself, I have walked in these woods for more than 40 years, and I am the only thing, it seems, that is about to be used up, or to be less extravagant, will in the foreseeable future be used up. First, though, I want to step out into some fresh morning and look around and hear myself crying out, "The house of money is falling. The house of money is falling. The weeds are rising. The weeds are rising." So again, if you want to look that up, that's Evidence by Mary Oliver. Okay, I'm going to invite Michael to take the reins. And just a reminder, you can send questions during the presentation through the chat, and there'll be times when Michael will stop and we'll open it up for these questions. And then we'll have time for a longer Q&A at the end where you can get on video and interact with Michael directly. All right, thanks. Well, welcome, Michael.
And I want to say hello to everyone. I just took a scan through of your faces, and I wanted to say hello to each one of you. I see we have many countries represented here. So I want to say TUKUY, hola, bienvenido, bonjour, wie geht's, and so on. From the bottom of my heart, I am so happy and honored. Those of you who are in East Europe or South Africa or India, your time zone is far ahead, you're up late, and so I'm especially honored that you tuned in at this time. Many others that are in time zones far ahead will be tuning in later by watching the videos. And I don't know about you, but I've really enjoyed connecting in this manner after 2 years of not being able to travel and being confined to my home because of the pandemic. I've done plenty of videos and podcasts and that sort of thing, but this is the first online class using Zoom, and I have been delighted to feel that this workshop, which is really about how to connect, has created a connection for me with you, and I think others are sharing in that feeling of connection and that open sense of awareness of the presence of others in this course. So I think that's wonderful. And also, Brian, I appreciate your presence and your sharing your gifts here and making this whole thing possible. So today's topic is challenges and obstacles, the stuff that pulls us off the heart path, and looking at what we can do about that. What is that pulls us off the heart path? Before I do that, I want to finish up with a little that I left unsaid last week because of time constraints. And the first thing has to do with the word psychoshamanism, which I professionally identify with. As I said, I'm a shamanist. That is, I'm one who follows a shaman's style of life and path and value system, that sort of thing. And I'm also a depth psychologist, and a lot of what I do is psychotherapy and mentoring of people. It has a psychological component. So like my book, Jung and Shamanism, it from the start has been an amalgam that's integrated of shamanistic and depth psychological elements. So I wanted to explain that psychoshamanism differs from traditional shamanism in that it uses, it doesn't have to use the shamanic drum journey and enter the other world, the visionary worlds, through the drum journey. It has other ways to do that, through direct inquiry, through using the open heart and the capacity to feel, through establishing dialogue with our parts, and so on. We can actually alter consciousness in a way that's called ecstatic. When shamanism emerged in India, it was highly ecstatic, and that meant drumming and rattling and this sort of thing. But as the population grew, it seems likely that things started going instatic, so people could sleep or not hear the noise you're making if you're a shaman. So yoga kind of develops out of these roots a technique of enstasis, of creating altered, really holotropic states by quieting the mind and going within and investigating through direct knowing, awareness, feeling, consciousness, whatever you want to call that. But psycho-shamanism really uses both ecstatic and enstatic. I mean, if I want to do a drum journey or somebody wants me to do that for them, I do it. But if we're just having a conversation and exploring something or seeking healing, I may not need to go there at all. In fact, usually don't. And so can just go in static. What unites the two is that they are holotropic states of consciousness. And holotropic is a word Stangroff coined. It means moving towards wholeness or moving towards healing. So it's a discrete region of altered states of consciousness that are beneficial and healing and move you towards your own growth, expansion, individuation, this sort of thing. So you can do it, with plants and theogenic medicines. You can do it with drums and rattles and dancing ecstatically, or you can do it in a calmer, quieter way. And as I've moved around the world, working with, studying with, teaching with shamans, I've noticed that they don't do the drum journey all the time. And I'm talking about indigenous drummers like from Siberia, from Tuva. My Tuvan friend, Vera Sashina, she does a lot of art, for one thing, and she does a lot of counsel and divination that doesn't use the shamanic journey. But when she does use the shamanic journey, she goes into trance. It's very powerful. And she's in one of those rare cultures where the shaman permits a possession state with some of her helping spirits. And so she needs an assistant to keep her safe so she doesn't fall in the fire or something while she's taken possession of, to get the diagnosis and the method of healing for the patient. But so even there, in archaic Siberia, there's a balance between ecstatic and enstatic states, maybe not even a balance, maybe more enstatic than ecstatic. So this whole course is based on primarily enstatic states, and other courses we can do the ecstatic states. But enstatic states in this work are using your heart, opening your capacity to feel and to connect and listen to your heart, like we did that practice in the first session a couple of weeks ago, where I had you drop down from your head into the middle of your body and bring to mind somebody you felt not comfortable being around, and pay attention to what you felt physically. That's using your power of feeling to sense inwardly and see how it all is going on in there. And then I ask you to think of someone that you feel good being around and notice what goes on in you somatically when that happens. And we made a distinction between what you feel and what you think. The words are just trying to describe it, like poetry. And they fail. They're not up to the task, but they can convey a sense of it, saying it's tight, it's stiff, I'm jumpy, I want to run, or fresh air, relax, glow, happy. These words don't really describe it, but they try to say that there's beneficial change in state, or just the reverse, depending. So the whole point of that exercise was to teach you to open within and listen to how your own heart speaks to you normally. It speaks to you in that way, and it is your guardian spirit, in a sense. It is your guide. There's a spirit that lives in your heart, that comes into this world with you, and when you die, it exits the world with you. And it's the guide for your life and the source of inspiration and creativity. And it seeks to help you fulfill your true nature and to realize your destiny by bringing your gifts to the world, whatever you came in with or whatever you developed in skills that you're moved by love and passion to manifest in the world. This is the work of that guardian spirit, and we can simply call that the heart. However, a lot of shamanist types do the shamanic journey, and they encounter, or they use entheogens, and they encounter an entity that they call their guardian spirit, or alternatively their creative genius, or their daimon, or their guardian angel, or their fravashi. Many names for it. You know, the Roman name of your genius that you're born with, native to you, is that you come in with that. It has a kind of a purpose to it, and a cluster of gifts around it, which it's there to remind you to bring those to life in the world and to give them away. That's your task. And that's the same way with the word daimon. It's a creative entity that inspires and guides and protects. And it's got a cluster of gifts. So it's your, let's say, your highest self, your deepest nature, but beyond what you could fully manifest in this life. But if you can manifest a fair amount of it, you're going to experience joy and fulfillment, and end with a sense that you did what you could do in this life to contribute to the beauty of the adventure of life and the goodness and the love. So it's very important to have some way to connect with that spirit in the depths of your being. And this is one way, by paying attention to what's going on somatically, because your guardian spirit, it will inspire you. It will give you ideas if you clear a space for it and become present, or if you alter your consciousness and go on a journey, whether it's by drumming or plants, doesn't matter. You will encounter this entity, if you want to, that really has your best intentions at heart and wants to see you manifest the best version or the highest version of you. So it's very important. And a lot of very creative type of people are very aware of this in Western culture. And a lot of people have not been aware of it in Western culture because it's not been stressed in a materialistic, overly rationalistic civilization. We tend to think of genius as something personal, and it's not. It's transpersonal. It's not part of your personality. It's not part of your skill sets. It can help you, it can lead you to those, it can inspire you to develop them, but it's not part of this world until we bring it in and use it to create, co-create with it. It seems to want to undergo the adventure of life with us, to explore it, to create with it. It's got artistic inclinations, you know. Whether we call it a guardian spirit like the North Americans, South Americans do, or whether we call it a daimon or a genius or an angel, doesn't matter so much. These are just words. And the main thing is you encounter it when you're feeling inspired, or when you're feeling guided, or when you're feeling protected, you know. And it can protect you through your immune system. It can protect you when you're in traffic. I remember last year, probably about this time last year, it's very cold here this time of year. It's about 30 below 0 Celsius in Europe. So if you get the sense of how I'm dressed, I have layers of sweaters, and it's just cold. And I'd gotten on a slippery road where people were suddenly backing up. But before I even knew what was going on, my foot already gently hit the brake and was steering off a collision course. I view that as a guardian spirit protecting me in that situation. But it will also close doors for me, or by feeling pull me out of a direction that would be out of integrity with who I really am. On the other hand, if we call it your creative genius, it's very important that you don't identify as a genius. This is just malarkey, okay? When people identify and say, I am a genius, this props up self-esteem, but it doesn't really say the truth, okay? Because it's a spirit, it's a transpersonal entity that's trying to help you in this life. And it wants you to partner with it so you can become what you were meant to become before you entered this world. And so you can do that in this life. So the heart path, the listening to the heart, is very important because that's where the invitations to do things that would fulfill your destiny, fulfill your true nature come from, as well as the warnings, which are usually just aversion. You know, like, no, I'm not feeling called to that so much, or I'm not feeling like doing that. So the genius myth started with the Romantics, who started to identify, you know, they were poets who started to identify with being a genius. And that's an identification that Jung cautioned us against, okay, because it's inflating. And if you're properly related to your genius or your daimon, you've got images of on your altar, you're saying prayers to it, you're asking for help and inspiration when you're trying to write a poem or when you're trying to help heal a patient. This is the proper relationship. But when you say, I am the genius, then you're putting it at the disposal of the ego. It becomes identified with the ego. And then you think you're superior, which there's nothing spiritual about that idea at all. It's just the ego's trip to do that. So I've made a little audio recording to be attached to this lesson today, that you can listen to later. And it's just a little protocol for how do you meet your guardian spirit if you use a shamanic journey. Because some of you I know do use that method. And so here's a way to do it. But I say carefully before I give you the protocol that it's not necessary, okay? It can be beneficial because it's nice to have an image you can relate to, talk to, put on your altar and this sort of thing. But the main thing is listening to the heart because it's there and it's beyond all form. And the form it shows you on a shamanic journey is just the revelation it chooses to give you. It's like the face of the divine for you, specific only to you. Another thing I didn't say last week is that when you are following the heart path and you're following the heart invitations, you can know that because you will feel drawn towards something or repelled from something, just like you felt when I taught you that go inside, drop down to the middle of your heart and bring to mind somebody you like or somebody you don't like. So that's the key, is the capacity to feel that, connect with that. And then your life is going to creatively take off and you're going to manifest, especially as you pull off the obstacles and the seductions that take you off your path. So there's several Andean ethical principles or philosophical principles is a better word about the heart path. And they are, number one, open your heart and live from it. That's the most important one. The second one is don't go against the heart, avoid going against the heart. Do not act out of integrity with your true nature. Of course, you will do that sometimes, and so have I. But the thing is, your guardian spirit's going to help remind you you're off target. And it's going to do that by making you feel out of sorts or wondering why the doors keep slamming in your face or wonder why every time things seem to line up, something goes wrong, or why you get certain symptoms or have disturbing dreams. All these are channels for your guardian spirit to communicate through. It communicates as your dream maker. It communicates as your symptom maker, if you're not listening. It communicates as your synchronicity orchestrator. It's the one that lines doors up and helps them to open for you when they wouldn't open for anyone else, as Joseph Campbell says. So not going against the heart is your best path for manifesting what you're here to manifest in your life and for becoming who you're meant to become. This third one is don't take anything or avoid taking anything that's not yours. And when I first heard that from my teacher, Don Alberto, I thought he was talking about stealing, like the Ten Commandments, don't covet or take anything that's not yours. And that's not what he meant. What he meant was more energetic. Okay. Like if your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your friends, whatever, gets really angry with you and they say mean things, don't take that. That's not yours. Don't take the energy behind that, more specifically. And learn to release that by connecting with the elements. One way is just through breath. If I feel I've just taken on something negative like that, I'll go, whew. Sometimes I'll Purindarismo, sign of the cross, blocking that energy from coming back. So this is a principle, and a lot of the healing work has to do with going in and finding where you've taken things on that aren't yours, energies that aren't yours, and learning what you have to do to release them, and then learning how to release them so they don't come back. And then the fourth principle is avoid blame and judgment. Or avoid praise and blame. They're two sides of a coin. If you need to be praised, if you need people to affirm you, well, then you're going to get disconfirmed. You're going to get rejected. You're going to get blamed because you're attached to some source outside yourself validating your existence. And in the Andean shamanism and elsewhere, this is seen as a mistake. It comes from parts of you that want to be loved or want to be seen that weren't, perhaps when you were a child, perhaps in your marriage, who knows? But you're always seeking for love, recognition in all the wrong places. And they're all outside of you. None of that stuff will change you. If somebody tells you how brilliant you are, how beautiful you are, how sexy you are, how smart you are, how creative you are, yeah, you probably will feel a boost in self-esteem. But self-esteem is a frickin' illusion. It's worth nothing, okay? It's totally contingent upon what somebody else thinks about you. So if you're worried about your self-esteem, you're looking in the wrong direction. You have to go inside and know your value, and only you can know that. And once you know that, there's a sense of confidence such that you don't need praise and you don't need blame. Blame can't touch you because you know your value. Judgment can't touch you because you know your value. So that's why they say avoid blame and judgment. And I add to that, avoid praise and blame, because they are two sides of the coin. It's all coming from without you if you play that game. And so that makes you a victim. That makes you dependent on what other people do. And there's absolutely no way you can become spiritual doing that, let alone whole and individuated. And the fifth one I got from Carl Jung. So it's not really an Andean principle, but it seems congruent with them to me. And that is when you notice you have harmful parts that have desires or reaction or impulses that are hurtful, cause suffering in other people. It's not easy to do, but you got to radically accept those. If you can love them, that's great. But do express them while keeping them out of social circulation. And what I mean by that is you can build a sacred fire, you can dance it out, or you can do a dream theater and act it out that way, or you can jump into a swimming pool and express it to the element of water. If you're feeling violent, make violent strokes in the water, you know. You can do poetry, you can do it in your journals, you can write pictures, draw pictures of the most obscene and forbidden things. But it's your journal, it's your art. So it doesn't hurt anybody if you express it in that kind of container or vehicle. And in this way, you start showing respect for parts that you've been despising and rejecting and pushing into your shadow. And often the reason they're that way is because they were never recognized as valuable, or they were repressed because they were thought to be naughty or antisocial. Usually they just didn't agree with the family or the religion or something like that. So they go into the shadow and they have potential value. Any negative part, any dark energy that's attached to a part in you has a potential value. But you won't get to that if you hate it. Just be wiser than it. The wiser consciousness is a bigger consciousness. Jung called it a transcendent function. It's one of his first words for what he meant by the self with a capital S. It's a bigger consciousness, so it transcends what any of the parts are up to. And it can be loving and kind and resourceful and creative in guiding them and helping them to find a way to ally and connect with you that's enriching of your beauty and your complexity and your creativity in life, rather than some part of you that you hate and neurotically twist yourself by cutting it off and pretending it isn't there. So keep harmful parts out of circulation, but do find a way to show them respect by expressing them creatively. That's the fifth principle of the psycho-shamanic heart path, as I see it. And it's very important. So there are these 4 acts of power when you live from the heart. And the first one is to remember continually to drop down and listen to what's going on here. And you can pose questions. You could wake up this morning and you say, what kind of a day would I like to have? What would I like to create or manifest today? Or just to do or explore? What would I like to do? And if it's simple enough, like I would like to have a picnic. Well, if it's a day off or something, it's very doable. If it's a weekend and you want to get out some canvases and paints and start painting and playing, you could do that. You can manifest that very easily. If you want to write a book, well, this is an invitation that's going to take you probably at the very least months to manifest in stages. But the thing is, you're being inspired through these invitations to do things. So when you ask, what would I like to do? You're inviting your guardian spirit or your daimon to come through and sketch out possibilities that are seasonally relevant to who you are right now and what might fulfill you now. So that's the first act of power, is to begin listening for these invitations. And you can even invite them by asking the questions. You could also ask, let's say this room here, I'm getting ready to remodel it a bit. It's been 15 years. So I'm currently in the first act of power, asking myself, how do I want to reshape this room? Make it more useful, say, for doing workshops like this online. And I might ask, what would aesthetically please me in here? Is it too cluttered now? Do I want more simplicity? So I am checking out and I'm playing with this invitation by exploring other possibilities. And that's the second act of power. It's like honoring the invitation by exploring the possibilities and sketching out. I designed much of my house. I tore down everything but the 2x4 frame structure of the house. And then I sketched out how I wanted it to go. That's an invitation. And I had to follow my sketches like blueprints so that they could guide me into manifesting this thing. And I had to do cost analysis, and I had to see when things would be delivered, and I had to see who would help me assemble things, how to get the knowledge I needed. This is the third act of power, the actual act of manifesting that takes some planning and focus if it's a big project. And so I manifested the house, and then the horse barn, which I'm sitting in now, and then other buildings that I actually erected, like a wood shop and a guest cabin in the woods. And I have a second barn now for my library and so on. So these were things all came through invitations. and were imaged further on paper, sketched out, and then I gathered the resources and I made them happen. And you can do that with your life too. You can look at your own inner being and say, okay, where is it beautiful and where is it not so beautiful? Where am I feeling really good, solid, healthy, and where am I not feeling so well? And what can I do now to beautify myself more inwardly? How can I make myself more loving, more compassionate, less reactive when somebody challenges me, this sort of thing? It's the same process. So the first act of power is, catching the invitations that pop up. I call them pop-up invitations because they can come at any point. You're mowing your lawn, or you're washing the dishes, and a hot idea comes. That's an invitation. But they can come when you ask for them, when you quest for them. It's what a vision quest is about. So in the first act of power, you are opening yourself for the inspiration and the guidance. You could say from the divine, El Dios, or from Pachamama, or from your own daimon or guardian spirit. It's all the same, ultimately. Second act of power is you examine and explore that idea. You play with it a bit, And it's a good idea to ask yourself, like, why should I do this? Why should I manifest this? Is it really worth doing? Check that out. Make sure it's not just some rogue part of yourself that's wanting attention or wanting somebody to validate you. That's not a good reason to do it. If that's the case, you might do it anyway, but I'm saying it's seeking for love in all the wrong places. So it's worthwhile checking that out. The third act of power is where you have now decided you're going to manifest this thing. You've got a clear idea or shape or blueprint in mind, and you're lining up your resources. So you need a lot of warrior energy. The shaman gets the vision, but the warrior in you, the foundational archetype of the warrior, is what will give you the focus, the direction, the smarts, the information or data that you need, as well as the elbow grease and determination to manifest it and to keep at it until you've birthed this thing. So what is the fourth act of power? Well, the fourth act of power is a little paradoxical because really protection. Protection is important. That's why you got a guardian spirit. It's why you got cells that allow certain molecules and chemicals to pass through its membrane, and it locks out others. It's trying to keep you healthy, trying to keep itself healthy. You have to have boundaries. Okay. When you are dreaming up your vision of the future, when you're creating a new project, when you are planning to do a workshop, when you are just wanting beautiful time with your family or your lover, okay, allow yourself a certain amount of time to just dream all that up and imagine it and even plan it before you share that with somebody else. And this becomes important when it's a big invitation, not just one you can finish today, but like it's going to require you to go back to school, this sort of thing. Or let's say you're working on a new series of paintings. You're an artist, okay? There's a long tradition in Europe of painters putting sheets over their canvas when they're not working on them. And that's to keep prying eyes from looking at them. It's not about keeping the paints fresh. It's about protecting their work that's in process, that's being birthed, from premature criticism. Because if somebody gives their opinion about what's being painted, that can infect the artist. And suddenly they're not creating their idea, they're trying to accommodate yours. So to honor the integrity of their own vision, they need to protect that painting. Something similar goes on with the potter working in ceramics, working with wetware as they're forming the wet clay and they're not done with it yet. Then they wrap it in cheesecloth to preserve it. Why? So that it won't crack by drying out too fast. It takes time for this thing to be birthed into full manifestation. But once you have manifested it, whatever it is, a poem, piece of pottery, a new project, a new way of expressing yourself. Once you have got that, then take the cheesecloth off, of course, take the sheet off, share it with others. Then it's fair game for them to share their responses. They have a right to give their opinions too. But the point is, you take care of you until that thing is ready to be shown. And that accompanies each of those first three acts of power. You want to protect each phase. It's only as you give birth, as you say, it's finished, that you show. At least that's true in most cases. Now, let's say you and your husband have been married 10 or 15 years, you've had some kids and they're getting older. And let's say the woman in the relationship thinks she would like to go back to school, maybe become a therapist, who knows? Or maybe study art, whatever. Well, she best protect that until she's explored it thoroughly and knows that she wants to do that and can see how this can come to be and how that will be a plus for the family and, not something that would be devastating for it. And then maybe share it with her partner, when it's at least got enough definition that she feels confident in it. This is what I'm going to do. I've got to find a way, and I would like you to work with me and help me manifest this, or at least support me in doing that. And it's possible in some marriages, some partners won't like that. They'll feel threatened by it. So you've got to work through that. But it is what it is. And the same way kids might not like it. Mom says she's going to go back to school. They might think, who's going to fix dinner? So that has to be worked through. But it's important to stand your ground. If you feel you're called to do this or powerfully inspired to do it, and you must do it, then you honor that, you protect it. So those are the 4 acts of power. And the things that can pull us off that track, which we'll deal with after a meditation here, really are our reactive patterns, our wounded legacy, places where we've been traumatized. We have parts with feelings and attitudes, desires that are not coming from the heart, and they issue invitations too. So a part of you that feels undervalued, not seen, unimportant, might send you an invitation to go do something that would get you more attention temporarily. So you need to be able to discriminate between what your parts are doing and what your heart is saying to you. They're not the same thing at all. I'm going to stop on that point. We'll pick that up in the second part of our talk. But I did talk about things getting in the way and dark energies and taking on stuff that's not yours. So we do this all the time, several times a day. I actually smudge down, light a candle, smudge down, and take a deep breath and we do this in the morning. We do it at night before we go to bed. We have a little altar in the bedroom. We do that because we pick up stuff, whether we want to or not. All you got to do is turn on the news. You're going to pick up energies you don't want, but there they are. And they can really distress you, So how to get rid of that stuff, So using your open heart, your capacity to feel, being the fact that this week, the message, the element we're focusing on is water, Yaku Mama. So how can the Yaku Mama help us clear out the stuff we've taken on that's not ours? There are many ways you can use water for serenity, for play, for meditating on, for a fountain to create sonic beauty in your home or in your garden, uh, dancing in the rain. All these can bring you into the present, can make you feel alive, open up your innocence. It's quite beautiful, relax you, calm you. But I'm going to teach you here how to use water to clean yourself inside as well as outside. So this is the teaching of Don Alberto, and I'm passing it on to you. And you're welcome to pass it on to others. But this is how it goes. So I ask you to take a deep breath, close your eyes. And imagine that you are going into the bathroom to shower. Turn on the shower. Even if you don't have a shower, you can imagine one. And you step into the shower, and you notice you've got two plugs in the bottom of your feet, your foot chakras. You know, the plugs are like rubber or corks. You can open them and fluids will flow out. You can close them, stop it from flowing out. You know? And your crown chakra, let's say it's got a plug too, and you can just pop it up, open. Okay. So in the first instance, I want you to turn on the shower water. Pick the temperature you like. It can be hot, warm, or cold, cool. And just feel it rushing over your body from head to toe, rinsing the exterior of your body. Feel how it is on your skin, your eyelids, your nose, your lips. How it feels as the water rolls down your neck, your throat, your chest. Feel it sliding down your back, down your abdomen and your hips, your thighs, and on down to your toes. And as you do, it's not hard to imagine that you're washing away particles of dirt and body oils and this sort of thing, and refreshing the body on the outside. Cleansing. Now, once you've done that, open the plug at the top of your crown chakra and let the shower go inside now. Turquoise blue water, and let it go all the way down to your feet, to the tips of your toes, and begin slowly filling you up inside. And let the water slowly rise through your ankles, up your calves and lower legs, circulating in your knees, expanding and filling in your thighs, on up your buttocks, your abdomen, filling your tummy, your chest, going down your arms, all the way down to your fingertips, rising up your neck, your throat, rinsing the inside of your mouth, even your eyeballs, your brain, the skull, and then put the plug back in. So now no more water can get in. You're full up of turquoise water. And then just let yourself move from side to side slightly, and frontwards and backwards, like the agitator in a washing machine that's trying to shake loose the dirt particles. And then reach down and unplug each of your feet and let the turquoise water and all those dirty particles and dark energies flow out, and give it time to gurgle down. And feel the stuff you took on just release from your body and go out through those chakras and the bottoms of your feet. And when you're completely empty, plug your feet again. This time, fill up with clear water from your toes all the way up, just as you did with turquoise water. all the way up to your crown chakra. And plug it, agitate a little more to the right and the left, front and back. And then again, pull the plugs on that. And let it all glug, glug, and gurgle, gurgle out until you're completely clean inside. Remember to breathe consciously and feel how good it is to have released that. Plugging both your feet up and now your crown chakra. You can step out of the shower, grab a towel, pat yourself down, and then get dressed and get ready for bed or get ready for your day, as the case may be. That's the ceremony of taking a shower. Now, when you're ready, if some of you would like to share what that experience was like for you or ask questions on anything I've said so far, we're going to open it up for that.
Okay, so as we did in previous weeks, you can raise your virtual hand by clicking the reactions button down at the bottom. Michael, there was a question that came through in the chat earlier. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. What are some embodiment practices to turn the feelings back on for those who have lost their capacity to feel?
Oh, that's a great question. And it happens in my work with clients, the client work, not the mentoring clients, because they can feel what they want, they know what they want, but the ones that are coming for therapy, there'll be two types. So there'll be those who are able to feel what they love, what they enjoy, what they want to do, this sort of thing. And there are those, and it's about 50-50, who, when I ask, what do you really want? They say, I want to feel better. I want to stop suffering, this, whatever it is. So there are two different strategies for those that know how to feel what it is that's beautiful for them. You just build on that. And working more with the stuff that gets in the way, that can stand between them and practicing or realizing what they really want out of their life. But for those that don't know because they've been so shut down because of trauma or conditioned socially to just think about being a mother of their children, being a good wife. I'm seeing less of this in younger women, but I would say for half of my career, for those women who were mothers and housewives, that's what we call them back then, there were people identified with their role of being a mother or being a wife. And often we're so focused on what do they want that they had no clue when I asked them what kind of life they would want. Or sometimes I would ask them, well, if you could just design your house or a room in your house exactly the way you want it to be for you, not for anybody else, not to fit in with the neighborhood, just you love these colors, you love these textures. What would you put in it? How would you design it? Okay. And I found that some could do that with some encouragement over time, but some of those who had no idea what they felt, I had to make up little assignments that I used each week. I have a 25-question inventory, and I would pick one or two items from the inventory with a mission. So An example would be between this session and the next one, pick one of these things that you will do this week, you'll commit to doing. So it might be going to a fabric store for the homemaker. And the instruction is just go to those fabrics that look the most beautiful to you, that really attract you, or those textures that you want to touch. Forget the rest. Just follow that. And the next week, it might be go to a bookstore without any plans. And once you're in there, just notice where your body wants to walk and go. Just pay attention to that. And then the next week, it might be the grocery store. When you go to the grocery store, okay, forget your list. Go just for you and see what kind of foods, what kind of products attract you. This is just practicing increasing self-awareness of what you're desiring. It doesn't necessarily say where that desire is coming from, okay? But it does train the person to start paying attention to what lights them up, to what they find appealing, to what they find beautiful. It makes them more aware of what they find disagreeable and so on. So that continues, you know. Go to a restaurant that appeals to you. Just go downtown today or tomorrow, sometime this week. Start walking. When you see one that beckons to you, go in and have your coffee or your meal or whatever. And so the practice is to go through those 25 little missions that are stated in my form, train them to start paying attention in little micro steps, okay, until they're at the place where they're able to notice their imagination and what they're dreaming about, what they long for, and this sort of thing. Does that help?
Yeah, I think that was really good. Aurora, I see you've got your hand raised. Please correct me if I got your name wrong. I know it's spelled a little differently.
That's me. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I can hear you,
Well,
Aurora.
yeah. I got two questions, but I think you already answered that, but I just need to be sure. Well, no, the first question is like, when I'm asking, can the heart stay in a neutral zone, like no expansion, no retraction, just the heart doesn't know? Is it possible, or is just my mind interfering, listening my heart? And
the emotional heart. Go ahead.
Well, it's just it's probably my case, because I know I got a very strong you know, in my head, but yeah, I wonder whether the heart can remain in a neutral zone for a while, because it's not time to take this kind of decision. I don't know. Is it clear?
Yes, I think it is. Let me respond. So there's the kind of invitation from the heart that it's agreeable or disagreeable immediately, and you know it. So then you have to choose what you're going to do with it, whether you're going to honor it or not. But there's another type of invitation where you need more information before you can choose. And the heart may need that too. It may need you to use your mind and gather that information so it can decide yes or no. But is the heart neutral? No. It's the mind is the one that doesn't know what to do. The heart does if it has sufficient information. Usually this doesn't happen for me, but when it does, I know what it is. And for example, one of my patients was an 85-year-old lady, and I worked with her for many years. She was a survivor of the Holocaust, and she was losing her mind, kind of a dementia, you know, and she spoke German. And so she's in this nursing home where nobody can speak German, you know. She could speak German, French, Spanish, and Italian. So she and I worked it out between German and French, but I saw that she was still confused. She was in dementia, okay. But she was calling for her mother, her Mutter, 85 years old, and she wants her Mutter. Okay, so here I am, this doctor in a nursing home. I'm in a suit, and I know what she needs, but I don't know what to do, okay? Because the invitation that came to me was to sit on the bed with her, let her hair down, and let me comb her hair, like a mother would her daughter. Didn't know what to do. I left the room, I walked around, and I thought, but I know this will help. So I did. I went in, I sat down, I combed her hair. She sighed, you could hear the relief, you could see it. She was at peace, yeah. And that night she died, and I think that was exactly what needed to happen. So the heart knows what to do, but in this case, my mind says, well, you're a professional psychologist, you're in a medical setting, you can't sit on the bed with a patient and comb her hair, okay? So I had to look at that long enough to say to my own mind, the part of me that's a psychologist, that what harm will be done if I help her die in peace? And when I could say it that way, it's like the shaman in me coming through, but then it was clear what the heart wanted me to do. In fact, it had given me that invitation. So the confusion was caused by the mind, my identification with the role of psychologist. But sometimes it might be something simple, like you want to know whether to sell your car, buy something else, or not. And maybe you need to take it to a mechanic to see it. Does it really need to be replaced? Can you really afford a new car? What's the cheapest way to go? And no doubt when you have that information, you'll get a confirmation when you're acting in accord with what the heart wants. So the biggest block to clarity of a heart is really what the mind is doing and how much of your energy it's taking. The heart is very simple, mostly. It's a yes and no.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so can I ask my second question?
Sure.
Well, I am a mother of a young child, and I was wondering if I'm listening to my heart, and my heart say, read a book, for example, and well, I need to do some laundry or cooking or whatever. It's just, so if I understand very well, this is my mind, and if I really need to do some cooking or laundry, my heart will tell me to do that. It's a little bit confusing,
Yeah, right. Well, it might, but the thing is, you have a part of you, the mother, maybe a part of you, the homemaker, that believes you should do that. Okay, and your parts have a right to say what they want and even say what you must do. I live by my heart, but I know I have to save money and pay my taxes. Okay, those are my parts. You have to save money. What if you get sick or you have an accident? You have to pay your taxes, or they'll come and take you away. So the parts are trying to help us survive and to do our job in the social roles that we're in. But there's some times when you could unnecessarily be fulfilling the role of that part, a mother, let's say, when you could choose, today I'm going to let the laundry alone. Maybe today I'll make a simple meal, or I'll ask my husband to make it or something, because I'm going to do this thing I'm inspired to do today. What's wrong with that? Why not? No.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for your question.
Yeah, thank you. That was on my mind as well. That discernment between, the way I was thinking of it, how do we tell the difference between the no in the heart and the no from some other part, like some kind of inner saboteur?
I like this, and I have my own answers for that, but we have Dr. Ayan Farvahar here. I would ask him if he's here to address that a little bit.
Thanks, Mikhail.
Mhm.
Yeah, Brian, you said how to distinguish between where the call is coming from, whether it is mind or heart.
Well, I was thinking more in terms of, Mikhail was talking earlier about feeling the no as also being a kind of an invitation or a guidance. And I know for myself, sometimes the no comes up, and with some investigation, I can kind of suspect that it's coming from maybe a more insecure or younger part of myself that doesn't want to face the fear or the challenge. So just wondering if you
Yeah.
or Mikhail have any tips on how to do that discernment between the heart and the heart.
Yes,
Can.
I asked
Yeah,
Ayan
go ahead.
Farvahar because he did a beautiful video on this question this week about when you want something, where is that coming from? Why do you want that? Can you say a little more, Ayan?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Mikhail. I think one thing, Brian, is it just usually heart calls are really filled with a lot of courage and confidence, calmness. So it depends on what the mind is always encouraged with. So if there is a call of doing something, and then you could ask yourself, what if I don't do it? What could happen? What's the worst thing can happen if I don't do it? And usually the mind response would be like, okay, you will be blamed, or you feel guilty, or there's some emotions that are more like mind is worried about. But heart is different. And when the heart is calling you to do something, there's not something that heart is worried about. It's just like a love that and calmness and courage that is calling you to do it. It's a very subtle, but from my perspective, I think it's always good to connect to that emotion or a call. Just ask the question: is that okay? I feel like I have to do this today. And I wonder why I should do it. And what happens if I don't? And then just kind of come in touch with that call and try to hear what the response is. It's usually there is a response behind it. But our rational mind usually doesn't want us to ask questions from a thought or an emotion, because it rationally doesn't make sense. But if it comes, as Mikhail said, it comes from our mind, which is a part of us, then engagement with that thought or emotion makes sense. So there is a lot of self-inquiry that could happen very softly. As we notice, we just engage with it. Okay, I feel like reading a book, as one of Aurora's actually mentioned it. And then there was another sense of duty for her as a mother to be the best mother. So that's, sometimes we have to kind of see both of these and recognize it, and recognize a part of us that calls from heart, just self-care, paying attention to the heart and what it needs, just reading a book, and try to engage with both of them. And maybe even ask time, say, can I, for example, read the book later? Make time for it later. Just not say no to the call of the heart. I hope, Mikhail, I actually had Mikhail, the video Mikhail was talking about is about self-awareness, but in the core of it is more really engaging with the thought or the feeling. not looking at it like not letting it blend with us. So because if it blends with us, we cannot engage with it.
Yes. So thank you, Ayan. I appreciate your perspective on that. We see things very similarly there. For me, there's the 10,000 things the Buddhists say that we have to deal with in life. There's always stuff. There can be obligations, moral requirements, ethical, legal, and so on. And sooner or later, we have to do those things. So it's not what is my will versus the will or the needs of others. Because in following the heart, I want to be present with whatever is happening and make each moment as beautiful, as creative as I can. So I really enjoy washing the dishes, you know. And in my relationship, I'm the one that keeps the kitchen clean and washes the dishes. And I have beautiful, healthy meals prepared for me in exchange for that. It's a wonderful gift. But I could be, looking at the meals as drudgery and work, and it's not fulfilling. And this is nonsense. Anything can become an opportunity for fulfillment because I want to be fully in what I'm doing. And I want to contribute to the beauty of the household. So the invitation here is, with these obligations, what I do, or how can I do it in such a way as to increase the beauty in this moment in the household? So it's not what I want versus the household, or not what I want versus the role. It's how do I use that as an opportunity to express my own love, my own presence, in a way that enhances or enriches things, not only for myself, but for others. There are times when I will want to, I will wash the dishes later, because what I want to really do is get to that book or write that poem, I work on that poem I've been writing. So I make a deal with myself. I say, okay, I will go work on the poem. So I capture this inspiration. And when I'm done, I'll come back in and clean up the kitchen and wash the dishes. So sometimes I do that. Anyway, you can probably think of other creative solutions, but just because you have an invitation doesn't mean it's from the heart. And that's the main thing, is to be able to ask, where is this invitation coming from and what does it want? What am I really seeking here? Do I just want attention? Do I just want to not do my job today because I need some downtime or I need some rest? That can be okay too, but you have to penetrate what's that about to be sure you're not being driven by parts that are just reacting. They're feeling bad and they need attention. They need healing or something. So you don't want those parts in the driver's seat of your life. You want the heart to be the driver's seat, or the self energies of love and compassion and connectedness and feeling and creativity and confidence and courage. These are the energies you want running your life.
Yeah, that's great.
We have some other questions.
Yeah, it's like this struggle between desire and duty.
Yep. Yep.
And I think, what was coming up for me when you were talking about that was if we can kind of see through the invitation or request or refusal, see if it's aligned with some deeper desire, like doing the laundry or doing something for the kids. Probably underneath that is a desire for an orderly, peaceful home, a harmonious home, or a beautiful home, like you were talking about. I think like digging under and see what is, if it's meeting some deeper heart level desire, is maybe a good way to do some of that personal inquiry that Ian was talking about. Yeah.
I want to say to that, Brant, that the inquiry needs to be done with feeling and not just with thinking, because you can feel your way into these insights and see what's behind it without having to have concepts and psychological theory and all that. You're just feeling towards the truth of what is there.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
the great thing about obligations and agreements that we make with one another is they're the best we have to guarantee that I will follow through on what I agreed to in the future, so that we can depend upon each other. Even I might not feel like doing it then, but I agreed to do it. So I will follow my obligation because you're relying on this agreement with me. So they have an important role to play, agreements and obligations.
Let me know if this feels like it's backtracking too much, but wondered if you could just bullet point those 5 principles of psycho-shamanism again, just so it's really clear. I know I was making notes and others are probably making notes too, but if you could just quickly go over those, I think that would be helpful.
Okay, the first one is open your heart and use your capacity to feel. Because when you do that, you have a heart compass. It's your center of direction in life. So open the heart, use it. The second one is avoid going against the heart. Don't go against the heart. It's a bad idea. Because you go against who you are. You go against your true nature when you do that. Don't take anything that's not yours. No blame, no judgment. That's the fourth one. And the fifth one has to do with your wounded parts and your shadow, and that is to keep harmful parts out of circulation. But do express them creatively. That's because they get darker and denser the more you ignore them and fail to express their points of view. So it's a way of becoming more whole.
Okay. Principle 1, open your heart, use your capacity to feel. 2, don't go against the heart. 3, what was 3? Because I was at 3 when you said don't take anything that's not yours.
That's
combine
true.
some?
No, that is 3. Second one's don't go against the heart. Third one's don't take anything that's not yours. Fourth one is no blame, no judgment.
Towards others.
Or yourself.
Is that okay? Yeah, I think I'd combine that with 3, like don't take on other people's blame or judgment. Yeah. Okay. Great.
I want to say, especially with yourself. If you don't blame or judge yourself, you're not going to be judging others, blaming others. So it's really important that you begin to love yourself and radically accept yourself instead of judging and blaming. You learn from your mistakes. We do make mistakes, so we have to acknowledge it, apologize if we need to, and say, okay, how did I make that mistake? I want to learn carefully because I don't want to make this one again. So how am I going to not make that mistake again? You need to get that clear. I write this stuff on the walls, okay, until I've internalized it enough because I don't want to forget, that I'm learning from my mistake.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's helpful. Well, I think we're all caught up on questions. One last call if you wanted to jump on, if something's come up for you. Oh, one just came in. Any tips for realigning the heart after a self-betrayal?
Well, self-betrayal is anytime we go against the heart. So you made a mistake. Admit you made a mistake. See exactly how you made it. What was pulling you off your path? What pulled you away from the heart? Probably it's a part that was wanting something or needing something. It's not been seen. It's not been recognized. It's not been given proper love or attention. And so it hooked you. And so you made a mistake. So learn that, and then learn how to love that heart, that part, you know. And you love that part just like you would your own child, or your own baby, when it's upset, when it's hurting. And you bring it into your heart, and you rock it, and you talk to it from the place of the wide open heart, which is transcendent to any part. So it has all this wisdom, and it can bring in the compassion that's needed. It can bring in the connection that's needed, the comfort, the calming. That's loving one's own parts. Is that it?
Yeah, it came through in the chat, so I can't tell if that answered the question, but I think
We'll
silence
see.
is a yes. I'm good. I'll take that. Okay.
Well, whoever
Yeah,
asked the question,
yeah.
if they have more to say later, they can say it later.
Okay. Yeah, there'll be.
It was just
Oh.
it was just me, Dr. McCall. I don't know. People that know my story, I literally went in the complete opposing direction, and I am integrating that fragment now. So I just wanted your opinion. And I wrote down all of your points. Thank you.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to continue, Michael?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
So I've mentioned the word parts a lot, and so I want to say something about that and why. Shamanism, Jungian psychology, both consider that the human person is a multiplicity of persons or subjects, or Jung would call them archetypes and complexes. We come with a multiplicity, the polycentric psyche. In internal family systems, they look at like we got an inner family. There's all these parts in there. They call them parts just because that's how clients talk. A part of me wants to do this, and another part of me wants to do that. And so I adopt that language too, because it's very practical. Because these parts, whether we call them complexes, archetypes, or whether we call them subpersonalities or reaction patterns, they have a life of their own. They have their own thoughts, attitudes, beliefs, feelings, and reaction patterns. They have their own needs and wants. And when they're not met, when they're not treated right, they tend to react and start seducing us or pulling us off our heart path when they're not well. Now, we have a lot of parts. Jung would say we're filled with complexes. You know, a complex is a nexus of feelings, beliefs that falls around an archetypal pattern, like to be a father. Well, the father archetype, there's a number of functions, you know, protecting the household, the boundaries, you know, being a symbol of strength, showing us how to connect with the culture, whatever. Being a mother, you know, nurturing, enfolding, loving, and so on. I'm just naming these as parts of a complex. So there's parts within parts. What holds a certain group of words together in a complex is the archetype that they're representing. So the father archetype has a certain feel or flavor that's different from the mother archetype. And we could go on and on, you know, there's all kinds of archetypes and all kinds of complexes. But a complex is just a part of a mind that does a certain job. So I have a complex that gets me up in the morning and brings me out here, and I light candles and I do my prayers and chanting. And I have a complex that tells me it's 4 o'clock and I got to start seeing clients now. So I better clean up and grab a meal and then get situated to do my evening consulting work. Or you might say I have parts that remind me of this and remind me of that. I know how to balance my checkbook. I know how to pay my bills. These are different parts. They're not who I am. The parts are not me, okay? They are submodules of my own personality system or mind that have certain jobs to do. I know how to make love. I know how to eat. I know how to shop for groceries. All these are parts doing their thing. And while you're talking to me, I can be listening with my theoretical mind. I can be listening with my intuition and with my unconscious feeling the background noise that's going on, you know. And I might also have some distractions going on, you know, some problem I'm dealing with that pops in and out, you know. This is parts. We're all a parts party, really. The thing is how to have them all organized in an alliance, integrated or synchronizing with our central core, with our heart and its purposes, so that they're allies of the heart. And there's where the problem is. Because wherever we have wounded or undeveloped parts, they're likely to derail us, to pull us off our path, okay? And we all have wounded parts. It's the juicier ones, the traumatic parts, that are more the problem. Now I have a mandala that I created, the red one. Brian, can you pull that up? Imagine that your psyche is organized like a honeycomb with all these hexagonal modules that are fitted into each other, like a puzzle, okay? And you can also imagine it's like Pan's pipes, you know, where the air of the spirit blows through each one, but each one, the music comes out a little bit different, you know, because the little modules or pipes have different things inside them that modify the breath of the spirit blowing through them. So some are like, you know, mother energies, and some are father energies, and some are child energies, some are artist energies, and some are psychologist energies, and some are pay the bills energies, and what have you. So we have all this blowing through our psychic structure, and this is its multiplicity. And when there's been trauma, certain parts, certain pipes will be clogged or swollen, so the spirit can't breathe properly through them. And there are actually blockages or occlusions that prevent the flow of energy, the flow of spirit, the flow of guidance and inspiration. And they distort the spirit so badly as they blow through that what would appear to be love comes out, thank you, that's it, comes out as something very selfish, when it could be very tender, very compassionate, very self-sacrificing, but it comes out in a very needy way. Now, if you can all see this mandala I drew a couple of years ago, I have a whole series of these, but I'm trying to express something. Last week, I had a mandala with the 4 foundational archetypes, and those would be like the 4 circular loops that you see in this mandala. And inside them are little dots and circles representing parts or potential parts of the personality system or of the psyche. And you'll notice they're different sizes. Some are like dots, like stars in the night sky. They are parts that really haven't been developed yet. You know, they're possibilities, let's say. You could develop a new skill set, you develop a new part. But it's the ones that are pretty big relative to the others. You know, so you'll see some swollen, juicy, or fat ones in there, you know, and these would be the ones that are carrying the burden of trauma, of very painful events that happened and overwhelmed the system in the past. And they can be in any of the quadrants. So if we look at the right quadrant, that larger circle, we can see 3 or 4 pretty big ones and several swollen ones in there. So I would say this individual needs some healing of those swollen ones to fully activate the foundational warrior archetype so they can be focused and disciplined and confident and courageous and manifest the invitations that are coming from the center. When you look to the south, that larger circle, they're holding all the other circles. You'll see one very large one and a couple others that are pretty juicy in size. And again, these would be swollen complexes, you might call them, or autonomous complexes. They're so big they could hijack your system at times. So since this would be the archetypal foundational lover, these would distort your loving, maybe in the direction of addiction and neediness, or selfish loving, so that the quality of your love is not as beautiful as it could be because you haven't healed this stuff yet. So it might get in the way. You might have a part in there that's so reactive that it thinks it's always being attacked, or it thinks it's always being ignored or not seen. So you could be a wonderful lover 75% of the time, but a fourth of the time, this other part's acting up and your partner's wondering, what the heck is going on with you? Thought you were loving, but here you're just being so hateful. So it gives you an idea of what it looks like when a part's inflated, swollen. It's overwhelming your system and it's blocking things and pulling you off your path, off center. And on the left, that larger circle, the foundational archetype of the shaman within, or the magician within, those all look like moderately okay. There's one swollen one in there. Let's say that part is a wounded part from not being recognized as a child, as having something of value to give. Maybe you were punished a lot or judged a lot, or maybe you were bullied or teased. So you've got this part that doesn't feel very seen. And otherwise, maybe you're very creative. Maybe you're an artistic type or whatever, but this part is sowing a lot of seeds of doubt about that, or is seeking constant attention. Look what I did. Aren't I great? This sort of thing. So it's trying to get you to give it what it wants. It will never be satisfied, though, because even if you give it what it wants, it won't last because it's not coming from within your own system. It's not coming from your own heart. You're seeking somebody else to give you temporary praise or recognition. And in the north or top here, that outer circle would be the elder position. And that's the least developed in this particular diagram. There's some big parts in there. So, an elder can be autocratic, authoritarian. So it's not a very good elder if that's the case. There's not much love and compassion flowing through when you're being autocratic, and it has to be your way, nor is there much creativity, But some people think because they're older or they have a PhD or whatever, that they're an elder, and that's not necessarily the case. You have to develop eldering, and a lot of it has to do with love and compassion for the younger generations and the species, and not competing with other elders. Elders should not be in competition with each other. They have a common concern to help the younger generations live in a way that honors all of life, themselves and this planet. And so if they're playing a competition game, that's based in some childhood wound. So let's say that's the big circle you see in the northern section. And because that person wants to be valued by others as an authority, it's not seeing or developing its own authority. It's looking for authorization from someone outside itself. So the way you heal these is you have to get in the center, and then you open and expand that center in unconditional love. And you take each part and you let it know that you love it and you want to hear its story. This is something we don't usually do, but you ask the part to completely tell you everything it wants you to know, and you give it as much time as it needs to do that. Then you open your big heart of compassion and curiosity and calmness and creativity. And you begin to help that part find ways it can give itself that which it really seeks and heal itself and become an ally of the heart instead of something that's thwarting it, something that's always feeling bad. It's the essence of psycho-shamanic work. A lot of Jungian psychology is about this, and IFS, the internal family systems model, is the one that most rigorously is pursuing this course of healing. But psycho-shamanism is concerned with this too. We have to learn to heal ourselves. We may need the company of another elder that we call a healer to help keep us straight, to be a good mirror, to share what they've learned on their journey, to share from the wealth of their experience, things to be of help for us, but only we can do the loving. Now, I wonder if you can pull the image down, Brian, and pull up the one with it's the green circle. This green circle will show us the 8 C words. You'll notice.
Sorry, are you seeing it now?
I am seeing it, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so there's 8 C words. At the very top in the elder position, there's calm and compassion. And then in the right, in the warrior position, there's confidence and courage. And in the south position there, the lover, it's creativity and connectivity. And then in the west, the shamanic or magician is curiosity and clarity. They don't have to fit neatly into this mold, but it was creatively conceived by Laura Burkett, who's my partner and collaborator in a book we're writing. And these energies, all of which have been recognized in the contemplative traditions, mystical traditions, and are to be found everywhere in shamanism and psycho-shamanism, as well as in parts work. In fact, Jung's last words in his autobiography is a page and a half on unconditional love, some of the loftiest writing he ever did at the end of his life. Is the main thing, the love. But when we open the heart and we say, what are the energies in the heart? Richard Schwartz, the guy that founded IFS, discovered it really, selected these 8 C words to help us remember them. But you can find them through any of the meditative or contemplative traditions. But what makes them unique in Schwartz's work is that you use them actively to heal yourself. Now, and he calls that self-energies, these 8 C's, self-energies. I call those heart energies. When you open your heart, that's your medicine. That's what you have to heal yourself and to guide your life and to create with and to succeed in manifesting and so on. So your open heart, that's not a part. That's the spiritual core and center of your own soul. And those are the energies, powerful vibrations, powerful medicine. So take that in, those 8 C words. And I thank Richard Schwartz for them. I think they're just beautiful expressions of what the heart is versus what a part is. Now, the thing about spirituality is it's not just for ourselves. It's not just for our own individuation or wholeness. No, that's the modern Western civilization's way of looking at everything. Even humanistic psychologists got it wrong, that therapy should be about helping us discover who we are and then going after whatever our dream is without respect to the plight of the planet and the plight of society and the plight of all the people that make up the world. We have an obligation. Any Buddhist knows this, with compassion. It's not just for ourselves. Our obligation is to become compassionate so that we become who we really are in our fullness and totality, and so that we can share that with others. And so we can breathe consciously and sit with them and ask questions that help them find what's causing them pain and what can help them resolve that pain. It's the heart of Buddhism to know how to do that. We just lost Thich Nhat Hanh, a great Buddhist, Zen Buddhist sage who lived that as thoroughly as I've seen any human being being able to do it. But we all have that potential in us. So I can't overestimate compassion when it comes to healing. Its other name is unconditional love. Now, the difference between this kind of parts work and Jungian psychology is subtle, because for Jung, the self is also like a holotropic force. It's driving you towards wholeness and individuation. And to become whole means you have to heal and reconnect and unite with and love and self-acceptance all your parts and hold all your opposite polarities in tension together so that you can live harmoniously and be in balance. And in that way, become what you really are, realize your potential. But in Jungian psychology, these tend to be expressed through dreams, through synchronicities, through symptoms, or we can do active imagination, which is like the shamanic journey where you go in and you talk to the parts and you talk to the spirits and so on, and you look for the wisdom and the resources through that kind of work in the inner world. But basically, the self for Jung is kind of lying in the background. It pervades everything and it bubbles up here and there to help us, always trying to correct us, get us more balanced, more whole. It compensates our one-sidedness. If we think we're a saint, well, we're going to dream what a devil we are, that sort of thing. And Jung had a great presence with people that he underrated in his theory, because it's more Jung's being that was a healing force than his theories and his ideas. In IFS and in psychoshamanism, it's not the self line in the background. We're aware of that presence, okay? But we want to become those 8 energies. We want to become that energy, not in some inflated way, in a very humble way, so that we can be whole human beings. And that's going to radiate and touch every person we give our time and our energy to. And in that way, we change the world, because first, in order to radiate those things, we have to do our inner work. We have to heal our parts. It's an ongoing process. But the more we heal our wounded parts, the more of those energies heal us, and the more those energies flow into and touch others. And we're so disconnected, it's so filled with suffering and misery, that it's a real gift to everyone for you just to be what I'm talking about. For you just to be these energies and to use these energies actively, not wait for them to come up in dreams or come up through your symptoms or for synchronicity to organize them. You be that presence, you be that wholeness. And of course, it requires a lot of work on yourself, and it's well worth doing. And the more you do, the more easily your dreams, your vision manifests, because you're removing those things that pull you off the heart path. At some point, it's no problem, it's no effort at all to not go against the heart, because what makes you go against the heart has disappeared. I'll pause there and see if we have some questions.
Michael, Where do dreams come into this navigation on the heart path?
Yeah. Well, dreams do many things, but one of them that Jung called attention to is their compensatory nature. So they do tend to either compensate or complement your one-sidedness. Like I said, if you think you're a saint, then you're going to dream of being a devil. So that's the invitation right there in the dream to contemplate and get in touch with your devil and see what it's up to, see what its story is, see what it wants from you, and see if you can treat it with respect, and see how it might become an ally if you did treat it with respect and love. But dreams go beyond the compensatory function. They can be your own daimon or your guardian spirit coming through with a message or a metaphor, trying to wake you up to something. You know, a shamanic journey is a lucid dream, really. It's a way of actively dreaming while awake. And there's all kinds of things you can do there. You know, I have a very elegant shaman's cosmos, so I can go into the underworld. I've got this house of dreams like Jung had. I could go into it and pass into this dream kitchen down halls with masks and portals into other cultures and a magic mirror. But I go to this dream kitchen because I can go there with my chief shamanic guide for protection in case I run into something that's overwhelming. Go in there and say, hey, what the hell was that dream about? What are you doing in my dream? Right to the dream characters. What is it you want from me? Okay. And once when I did that, I was in some village in Europe, some narrow street, and I walked into my own house there, and I realized I'd entered the door into a kitchen, and it was very dark and dingy, and so I could feel something moving around in the dark. I could kind of hear it. So I felt around with my hands on the floor, and I picked it up, and it was wet and disgusting, and it jumped out of my hands. And I stood up and I turned a light bulb on, and it was a dirty, slimy frog thing. And I was repulsed, and I said, what am I doing in my dream? And it said, you made me this way. Whoa, I made you that way, meaning I was making it repulsive. So I decided to look around the kitchen, and it was really a mess. There's dishes were piled high, weren't put away. The tablecloth was dirty. There was food on the counter and all kinds of dishes and pots and pans that needed to be cleaned. So the first thing I did was I washed dishes, and I completely cleaned up that kitchen. I put up new curtains, and then I looked at the tablecloth. I threw that one away, and I got out was great, you know, Italian tablecloths, kind of a red and white checkered thing, and put it on the table. I put a wine bottle with some water and a flower in there. I changed the light bulb, something prettier. And I thought, now this kitchen looked better. I better paint the walls. So I changed the color in the kitchen. And when I was done, I looked at that frog, and the frog was beautiful. It was big, not so fat, but it was this elegant, radiating rainbow colors of light. And it said, you made me this way. So make a long story short, you know, I did work this dream consciously in my journal, but the metaphor here is that I was traveling a lot, teaching all over the world, 4 continents. I was just gone all the time. 6 weeks a year, I was crossing the Atlantic Ocean 22 times a year. And I wasn't taking care of me very well. I was so busy. I was doing good work, but I was feeling tired. My property in the United States was not being kept up to snuff because I was traveling so much, you know. And so the message I got out of it was, I need to take care of me, my own stuff, you know. I need to not be traveling so much. And so I began to reduce that down, and I began to repair what I had at home and get my life back in balance. Yeah. So a dream can be an invitation from the heart. Okay. to get yourself back in balance like that. So you don't need to sit with an analyst. You need a way to re-enter the dream and ask it what it wants, what it needs.
Yeah, that's great. Now, the follow-up to that is any tips for people who aren't currently accessing their dreams? How can they start to work with dreams, but at least begin to bring something back from the dream world? Any tips?
Well, I wonder if there's a more specific question behind we all dream, but we not all of us remember our dreams. I find that if I make a request of my guardian spirit for a dream, I tend to get one. I put a journal beside my bed when I want to tend to my dreams. I don't do it every night. I have a soundtrack on my cell phone that I use for shamanic drumming, because when I lay down, a lot of times I like to lucid dream. So instead of falling asleep all the way, I don't with effort, but it happens with the drumming. I stay where the dreams start to rise. So I'm consciously awake, and then I can explore. It's amazing to what's arising at that point. And when I've had enough of that, then I just go in and have a nice, deep, restful sleep. Okay. And if I dream more, those are easier to recall. So I would say the cues around bedtime, around when you go to sleep, having some symbols around, could be a dream catcher, could be a feather of a bird, could be a Guadalupe candle on an altar in your bedroom that you see. Definitely a dream journal if you plan on having dreams. So you're priming yourself when you first awaken to go, did I just have a dream? To kind of scan that twilight state that you wake up into, the hypnopompic state. It's easier to catch the dreams there. So I'll lay there when I first awaken and just see if I can find a thread and then pull that dream in, open it up. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. You're on your own with dreams, but these are some of the tricks of the trade.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. So much about intention. I think it's like sending a message to the psyche that I'm here, I'm listening. I vow to be a faithful field reporter from the dreamscape. And I have a little statue of Asclepios, the Greek dream shaman, right at my nightstand. So before I turn off my light, he's the last one I see. And it's an invitation to Asclepios to help me receive some healing dreams. Yeah,
That's
thanks
great.
for that.
Love that one.
Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions right now, Michael. Last call for anyone. Is there a question burning in your heart that you'll regret not asking? How's that for some heart guidance? If you don't ask this question, what will it mean to you? Okay. Well, Michael, I'll let you take it from. Oh, wait, we've got one came in. Can we review how the unhealed parts of the shaman, elder, warrior, lover, how they appear? For example, how the unhealed lover might show up as addiction. Is that clear,
Oh,
Michael?
sure. Mm-hmm. Sure. I mean, that can show up in so many ways. So say I have a lover that's addicted to being touched or to being needed or to be reassured constantly. So I'm constantly staging dramas with my partner to get the reassurance I want or to get the touch I want, when it can actually be a needy part that maybe does need to be held mostly by me, and I'm not even recognizing what it wants from me because I don't acknowledge it. To drug addictions, to sex addictions, pornographic addictions. There's all kinds of ways the lover archetype can be wounded and go wrong in its development. So can you even call those things love? It is love seeking to overcome something, but it's an overcoming that has to do with healing. and not so much uniting with the other person, but uniting with oneself.
Yeah. So Michaela, in Robert Moore's book, King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, he offers a lot of examples of what the shadow aspects of these primary archetypes look like. And I think you could map those pretty clearly into Michael's model. I'll also offer that on Instagram, I've been doing a series where I look at examples of different aspects of the primary archetypes and what shadow manifestations of those look like. So you could look there as well. But yeah, great question. What does it look like? How do these unhealed parts show up in our lives practically? So there's a lot you could say on that, I'm sure, Michael. Okay, well, I'll take your silence as everyone feeling very satisfied and full. There's a lot of great stuff today. I especially love the meditation that you offered us on the clearing out on the inside. That was a new one to me, and I really felt it, and I'm gonna bring that into my life. Okay, Michael, so do you want to close it up here?
Yes, with two invitations. One is to practice with this element of water this week. The basic practice is to feel the water doing its work on your physical body. The deeper practice is also to take that inside and let it clean out the stuff you've taken on board that you don't really want or need there. And you can combine that with a bath or the shower. I used the shower because it was easiest for my metaphor, but I would say practice that each time you take a bath or a shower this week. Practice is important because it sets the pattern, it sets the template down so that we can actually become more whole, more connected, more loving, and so on, and carrying less burden, less baggage. That was the first invitation. No, it was the second. I think I lost it. With regard to healing your parts, I'll say much more next time, because that's about okay, what can we do with these parts? So I will show you as gently as I can next time how you can do that. But I won't go too deep because I think you need somebody you can process with if we go into something real traumatic. So I'll just start with the easy things. But one thing you can do, if I've touched a wounded part in you somewhere, is to take a full breath and release with a little Mona Lisa smile, that little smile. Makes you feel better, and it helps you hold your center. And then talk to that part. Say, tell me your story. And have your journal handy so you can write down things and hold that, okay? And should you get to a point where there's a lot of raw pain there, open your heart and welcome that part into your heart and hold it and love it up, calm it down, help it relax, and let it know you are there for it, and you will check in again on it later. You can do this with fire or water or earth or air. My preferred element is the fire, so I usually will sit with the fire when I do this work. Could be done in the bathtub. Could be done on your sun deck with the wind. Can be done by digging a hole in the ground, working with that. Anyway, bless you all for coming. Hope you have a great week. I look forward to seeing you next time.